All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. I am hosting the Mixed Mental Arts movie chat today with Dusty on the movie called Idiocracy, the comedy directed by Mike Judge, of course, who directed things such as the movie Office Space, which is also awesome, and of course, the Beavis and Butthead show. And yeah, this was Dusty's suggestion, and I hadn't seen it before, so I'm glad that I did. And I'll let you introduce the movie, Dusty, since this is kind of a hybrid between mixed mental arts and mindgasms.
Well, I'll ask, do you think we are headed towards an idiocracy?
Kind of seems that way right now.
Well, one thing I do know is that the internet makes idiotic opinions more visible.
That's for sure.
And it may appear that we are. I don't think we are, but it's just that aspect of discourse is more visible. So it seems like we are entering an idiocracy. Certainly, the whole Trump thing is certainly part of that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
And all
yes, this is a movie. It's really. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, this movie, I think it's over a decade old.
Yeah, it came out in 2006.
Yeah, so it's stars Luke Wilson, which is the other Wilson brother.
Mm-hmm. The brunette Wilson brother who doesn't have a weird nose.
Well, he doesn't have a weird nose, but you could see that the nose kind of runs in the family. Because there's this funny picture of him that Maya Rudolph's character like paints at the end of the picture at the movie. It's really bad, but it actually looks like him quite a bit, like the little artistic portrait she does at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Luke Wilson, Maya Rudolph. We got a bunch of other good actors. Dax Shepard plays Frito Pendejo, his lawyer. And we have
He's
what's
really
his
bad
name?
lawyer.
The buff dude.
Oh, Terry Crews,
What's
of course.
the buff? Terry Crews, yeah. So the premise of the movie is well, it opens with two couples, right? This kind of low IQ couple and this high IQ couple.
Yeah.
The low IQ couple struggles to have a child. They eventually, I think he dies while he's trying to create sperm for their like in vitro injection. And then on the other end, Cleavon, he's just popping them out like rabbits and just creating like a bunch of idiots. So
the dumb people are breeding like rabbits and the smart people are not having kids.
Yeah, so that's kind of the premise of the movie. But anyway, we have our character, I think his name is James, but his
I'm not sure.
I'm just going to refer to him as not sure.
Yeah, that's what
I'm just going to refer to him as not sure because that's basically what his name becomes. But yeah, he's like sitting in some archive and he gets approached by his superior officer to participate in something. He's not really told what it is, but he's told that it's important.
I think he's an army librarian, right?
Something like that. Like he's just like sitting in some archive with a bunch of like books and documents and stuff. And then we get to see the
Oh,
presentation of what it
yeah, you were
is,
right
and
that the main character's name is Joe. Sorry.
Joe. Is it Joe?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, they go to this nerdy research dude um, comes up with it's funny because they come up with their test subject. So Joe is average in basically in every way. They tried to pick the most average person that they could in the army, and it ended up being Joe. They weren't able to find a female candidate, so they kind of went outside into the private sector. Um, in this case, the researcher guy infiltrated like a pimping ring, like a sex trafficking ring or whatever. Um, and he talks about it's hilarious because he's like, "Oh, the love of a square" or something like that. And he tries to elaborate on his experience with the pimp, but the other officers are getting pretty annoyed, and they're basically telling him to get on with it. And he has like this slide presentation, and it's like a bunch of pictures with him and the pimp name upgrade, um, and that he seems to be very proud of.
Is
But anyway,
the way he spells his name is funny too.
yeah, so it's 2 Ds for a double dose of his pimping.
Yeah.
So, next scene, I think we see them getting put into the little time capsule deals. And the experiment is that they're going to put them in, I guess they're going to cryo freeze them or put
Yeah,
them
it
in
seems like
suspended
that.
animation for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the experiment was supposed to last a year. And what happens though is the guy that was running the experiment, yeah, he gets arrested for sex trafficking because I
Yeah.
guess the pimping lifestyle just sucked them in. And
Yeah.
there's like a part that's pretty funny. Like he's putting them to sleep in their little capsules, and he greets them, and he's like, "Hello, my niggas," or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like there's just like funny little things like that in
Yeah.
this movie. But anyway, what ended up happening is since he gets arrested, they kind of keep lose track of that experiment, and they wake up like way in the future. So we kind of see a montage of what's happened. Do you want to go ahead and talk about the montage of what's happened in between them going to sleep and waking up?
Yep. So I think 500 years passes instead of 1 year. And I think it's because they lose funding for the project or something like that. And the correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what happens. And their cryo chambers get put into a landfill or a garbage dump, and so 500 years passes, and it's that funny part that we were talking about before, or the other day before we did this chat, about how it shows it shows a Fuddruckers as time is passing, and then the name gets gradually changed, and it's Dumber and Dumber, and it's like Butt Huggers or like Hudruckers and all these different names, and then it eventually, when it's 500 years in the future, 2506 or so, 2506 or so, I think it is, it's become butt fuckers, which we found out, which you and I used to both jokingly call it that too. Um, and then so then that's the point where he, um, Oh yeah, so because people are becoming dumber, because the dumber people are breeding and the smart people are not, they people forget how to deal with garbage basically. So there are these giant garbage mountains, and there's a great garbage avalanche of 2506, I guess it was, where his or both of their cryo chambers come down from the top of this garbage mountain, and his cryo chamber crashes into Dax Shepard's character's apartment, who eventually is his lawyer, and that's how he gets back into, or that's how he goes into the future.
But what is Dax Shepard watching when Not Sure emerges from the chamber?
Oh, he's watching this show about a guy getting hit in the nuts, and it's just an endless stream of him falling into things or getting hit in the nut and getting hit in the nuts either accidentally or or on purpose by other people.
Ow, my balls.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Ow, my balls.
So at this point, like, society has completely devolved. Not Sure does not know what to do. He's doesn't even know that he's in the future yet. So he kind of looks around town and sees what's going on.
Well,
And kind of
we
tries to
should say
find.
a little bit more about wait, what's Dax Shepard's character's apartment or character's name? I forget what it is.
Its name is Frito Pendejo.
Frito. Yeah, yeah. I thought it was funny too when he crashes into Frito's apartment, and on the TV is like filled with ads all over the place, and he's watching 4 different shows at once, and one of the shows is Ow My Balls, and I like his chair too. Like when he gets up from, it just looks like this big comfy chair. When he gets up, you notice that his chair is also a toilet, which is pretty funny. And it's also interesting noticing how much communication and language have devolved to the point where most people are like incoherently groaning. And I think the narrator says, I forget how exactly the narrator describes it, but it's something like it's this combination of surfer bro, valley girl, and like 1 or 2 other ways. So it's really stereotypical ways of communicating. So Frito is just like mostly grunting and basically just complaining about Luke Wilson and or about Joe at this point's character crashing into his wall and not really listening to anything he's saying. He's just like, get off.
Yeah, that he has a very thick accent on his character. That's
Yeah.
'cause it seems like his is thick, but Terry Crews just sounds like Terry Crews.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even realize that. Yeah. But he's doing this like stereotypical thing that he does in a lot of his movies where he's like yelling aggressively and stuff like that. But yeah, he doesn't sound like a dumb guy or anything like that.
Yeah, so I know first off, he's not feeling well, right? I think he's just not feeling too well. He wants to get checked out at the hospital. Is that the deal? With Not Sure?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so he wanders over to the hospital. But I'm not sure, when did he go to the movies? Did he go to the movies before the hospital or after the hospital?
Oh yeah. I don't remember. I guess he probably went after, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I'm not sure when exactly.
But anyway, yeah, he goes to the hospital to get checked out. He's given some probes to inject. One has to go in his mouth, one in his ear, and one in his ass.
And wait, before that, when he's talking to the secretary at the hospital, She's just like looking at him annoyingly, and she just has a bunch of buttons to select from for different phrases that she can tell him, and it communicates in a robot voice whatever phrase she chooses. So she just says, I forget which button she presses and which phrase she says exactly.
The one that has question marks on it.
Yeah. And then she tells him where to go, and then that's where he goes to get in that line of people that are doing the the things you were talking about. You still there? Your sound cut out there, Dusty?
Am I robotic?
No, I just lost your audio for maybe 10 to 30 seconds.
I must be, right? I'm robotic.
No? Do you hear me?
Uh-oh.
I can hear you now, but it seems like you can't hear me.
Uh-oh.
Try exiting and rejoining again.
I don't know. I just hear robots right now. But can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. The internet doesn't like us talking about anal probes.
I think what I have to do, I need to run down to the bottom floor because... What?
The internet doesn't like us talking about anal probes.
I got the robot syndrome.
I'm like a robot to you? I can hear you, but you clearly can't hear me. Right when we were talking about... so you're going down to the bottom floor. If that still doesn't work, try exiting from one or both of the, like from your phone and for your tablet and rejoining, because it seems like that has worked before. But I'll continue on describing what happens in the movie.
I don't know. I just hear robots.
Okay. I'm going to send you this message in the private chat if you can hear me. Try exiting and then rejoining. Right. Oh yeah, I should tell him that I'm going to continue describing what happens in the movie for the time being.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can now? Okay.
Yeah.
If you can hear me now, try exiting and rejoining, because it seems like that's worked before. Yeah, Mackeldoon said this.
I think it's just...
Is it Skynet? It's definitely Skynet. Skynet from the future.
Yeah, I think it's just my internet connection.
Okay. Skynet from the future does not like us talking about butt plugs. Okay, so yeah, I'll continue talking about that for now. So
I don't remember a butt plug in the movie.
Well, whatever you were just talking about. When he goes to the hospital and he's in that line.
The probes, when they were trying to figure out...
Yeah, the probes, anal probes, not butt plugs. Yeah, when he... yeah, when the guy gives him those 3 things and one...
They also find out that there's, in the hospital, there's like a drinking fountain with a green drink, and he drinks
Yeah.
it. And he's like, "What the hell?" And then he gets his little probes mixed up, and then because it's possible that he could have put the ass one in his mouth.
Yeah,
So he goes and he washes his mouth out with the
what was it?
Gatorade.
What is what the three are, one is for his mouth, one is for his butt. I forget where the third one is for, but he
His
gets
ear.
the guy who gives it's for your ear.
Yeah, the
Okay.
ear.
The guy who gives the three probes to him, he puts one in his mouth, one in his ear, and one in his butt, and then the guy's like, "Oh wait, wrong ones." So he has to put the one that was in his butt in his mouth, or it seems like that could be the case, right?
Well, that, and then he was like mixing them up and rubbing them together. So he
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
contaminated all the probes.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Eventually, he sees a doctor, though, right? And the doctor basically tells him that he sounds faggy.
Yeah. You sound faggy. Yeah. I was thinking during this movie there's a lot of like homophobic jokes that probably would be more difficult to get away with now.
Phil,
Oh, uh-oh. Did you Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
a
talking
roboticized there.
on. What was that?
Turned into a robot for a little bit.
Yeah, you did too. You're back now though?
Yeah, I'm back.
The McEldoon said that
McEldoon,
Dr. Justin Long. Yeah. Yeah,
Justin
he has
Long.
that like that surfer bro voice basically, and he looks like a typical stoner bro kind of, and he's like, "Bro, your voice sounds faggy."
And then when he goes to pay for his visit or whatever, he's like, "No tattoo, no tattoo." What is that? What he says?
Yeah,
Like
I think
he
so.
couldn't believe that he didn't have a tattoo to scan for payment or whatever.
Yeah,
And that's when
and
Not Sure kind of runs out of there.
yeah, basically, and
And
then is it immediately that the cops start chasing him for not paying his hospital bill, or is it something else that happens also that makes the cop chase him? I don't remember.
I think he leaves the hospital, but he goes to the movie, I think, to watch Ass.
Right, right. Yeah, it's just a movie called Ass that just does nothing but show people's asses for 4 hours and has them farting and stuff like that. And it won 4 Academy Awards, I think the narrator says.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus, this is crazy.
Yeah,
This is in 2006, but um, he later, I think we do get a glimpse of Rita also. She emerges from her time capsule
yeah,
and like she becomes her own pimp. So there's like this dumb guy she convinces to wait, and she says that she pays by the hour, and she
yeah,
starts charging him like days in advance before she actually performs any type of sex act. But I forgot to
yeah.
mention that she was a former prostitute.
Yeah, and I think we forgot to mention earlier too. We were talking about her pimp, so we might have mentioned that, but I think we forgot to mention that um, before her and Not Sure go into those time capsules, they're talking to each other, and he's like, she tells him that she's a painter instead of that she's a prostitute, right? And that her and that
She says, I do a little this and that.
yeah. And then he guesses, oh, so you're like an artist? And she says, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So he thinks that she's an artist and she does a little this and that, which
Yep.
is prostitution.
Yep.
He thinks that she owes her boyfriend money. It's just her pimp that
Yep.
she needs to give money to. But so she's out in the streets, working the streets. Think they run into each other, right? And then he gets arrested later, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, the reason he gets arrested is because he didn't pay his hospital bill.
Yeah.
And before he goes to jail, he has like some crazy trial where some dude, the judge has like Wolverine hair and sideburns.
Yeah.
And his lawyer is Fredo Pendejo, Dak Shepard, the house he crashed into. And the other lawyer is like some dumb guy. The arguments are pretty bad from the lawyers. You could probably watch all these scenes on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you can watch all of these scenes. But what ended up happening is his lawyer actually he works against him.
Yeah. It's like this mob mentality thing that seems to kind of like replicate more quickly because they're dumb throughout the movie. It's like the first lawyer, his first argument is, man, he's guilty because just look at him, man. And then the whole crowd agrees with him, and that's basically the extent of his argument. And then I think
one of the arguments was that he sounded faggy.
Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, and he sounds faggy. And so then his own lawyer basically like works against him, like you said. So that leads to his sentencing, which we find out.
Yeah, so he ends up getting thrown in jail, which is like fucking horrible.
Yeah.
I think the first thing we see is like in the cell they just throw food down a tube, like some type of, I don't know what the hell, some gruel, and everybody's like fighting over it, and the place is just disgusting looking.
And there's this giant fat guy who just sits on one of the other prisoners'
faces. He points at not sure, like he's gonna be next. So we forgot he got a tattoo.
So that's when he gets his name, why. Sure.
Yeah, we didn't explain how he gets his name. He gets his name right before he goes to prison, or actually, he gets his name before he goes to court.
Yeah, that's true.
But what happens is the machine, I guess, mishears him when it tells him to state his name, and he says not sure, and then he's not able to reverse the process. So
the machine gets confused in so many ways because it's confusing him too. Like I forget how it goes exactly, but it's asking him questions, and it says, "What is your name, Joe?" And and the machine says, "Did you say this?" "No, I did not say that." "Oh, or no, I sure did not say that." "Oh, so your name is not?" "No, my name is sure not." "Oh, okay." And then it tattoos. I think it starts the tattoo when it says sure not, and then after it's done the tattoo, it still screws up again, and then it reverses the words, and then it says that his name is not sure. Yeah.
So he also has to take an IQ test, I think, at that time. Like, and that's when, well, aren't told the results of the IQ test, but we see people are struggling over like toddler level, like intellect.
Yeah.
Like there's a activity where they have to put shapes into like the different holes,
Yeah.
and the people that he's like observing are having a hell of a lot of trouble on that one.
Yeah. And chimps can do that now.
Yeah, so they're saying that these people are dumber than chimps. But so he goes to prison, and while he's being carted to a cell, he slips the guard and tells him, "Oh, I'm getting out. I'm supposed to be getting out today." And he points him over to like another line, and he
Without even
talks to the
looking at him, I think, right? Does he? I don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah. Well, he goes over to the, I guess the area where they're processing prisoners out of the prison. He goes to the guy. He's like, "Oh, your name's not on here." He's like, "Well, you're gonna have to double check because I'm pretty sure they told me to come here." And when the guy turns his back, he just books it,
Right.
and then like he runs out the front of the prison, and there's like these sentry guns, kind of shooting, and one of them shoots the other sentry gun.
Yeah.
And I think it's at this point where he makes his way back to his lawyer's house, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And when he gets to his lawyer's house, what's the first thing the lawyer says?
I forget. Is it like you broke my house? I forget.
I think he says, "Go away, Baton."
Baton?
Yeah, you remember? He's like, "Go away, I'm baiting."
No, I
Because
forgot that.
as he's watching like the masturbation channel or whatever.
Right.
And the
That's another
channel, it's
funny
like
thing that
some,
we'll get to later too about what restaurants have become.
oh, yeah. And well, the masturbation channel, he's watching like a video of some lady cutting a steak with her feet or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. But he barges in there and um, he threatens him with this to disbar him, right? And that he's gonna
Yeah.
get in trouble. And then he not sure thinks that they developed a time machine for
Yeah,
some
because he
reason.
asks him if there's a time machine, and he says there is, and we don't find out what that actually means until the end of the movie.
Yeah, so he says that he's gonna put a like a sum in his name, and then that is gonna build like a lot of interest when he goes back in time, and he tells him, "Oh, I'm gonna make you like $30 billion." And then Dax Shepard is like, "Well, the time machine costs 20 billion." So it's like, well, he's like, "What's 20 minus, or what's 30 minus 20?" And then I'm not sure. It's like, "Oh, it's just 80." He knows the answer. He's just, the guy's that so stupid that he's not going to know what
Right.
that is. So after he convinces them um, to go on this quest for a time machine, he also suggests that they look for Rita, right?
Yeah.
So I think he finds her in the streets,
Yeah. Is
and
it is it when she's basically getting more money from that guy by keeping on that scheme of having him pay her for advance and just basically doing nothing forever while he pays her forever?
yeah, so she's in the middle of scamming that guy, and he convinces her to come along with him and Frito in their car. And while they're talking, like, not sure gets scanned, and that alerts like the cops. Like he's in the vehicle and he gets scanned. So they start hightailing it, and there's a point where the power gets cut off from their vehicle um, because not sure is in the vehicle and he's a fugitive. So they run out of the car because the cops are coming. And then they go and they run and they observe what happens to the car. The cops just show up and they shoot the hell out of the car for like a minute. They're like all the bystanders are cheering the cops on, and
And then
the car's
Frito starts
cheering them
cheering him
on
on
too.
too. And not
And it's
sure
like
it's
it's your
it's
car,
your
man.
car.
They're destroying his car, and he's just like cheering on the cops.
Yeah.
Eventually, like I think the cops are just like shooting their guns in the air, and everyone's just like celebrating. So anyway, their next plan from Frito says that they need to go to Costco. Um, Forgot why. I think that's where the time machine was supposed to be located.
Yeah.
But they go to Costco. They go on Costco on foot, and it's just this massive, massive, massive building.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like bigger than a warehouse. It's like almost like, I don't know, like movie studio sized, or perhaps like where you can build
it's
giant
just
sets in.
gigantic.
Yeah.
It is huge. It's like so huge. I think it has like a tram system inside, right? There's like a
Yeah, I
train
think
system
so.
inside the Costco.
Yeah.
So they go in there, and then we get to see like the other businesses. Like I think there's like a Starbucks in there, and it gives hand jobs or something.
Yeah, that's what like all restaurants have become in the future. We see that part later on where it's a string of restaurants, and it's all double entendres for hand jobs. It's like with special release, with happy ending. Yeah, I could go for a
So
Starbucks. You want to get a hand job right now? I don't know if this is the time for that.
yeah, so they're in the Costco. The Costco is like crazily. It's like has everything in there. It shows us, and the funny thing about this movie is that there's a lot of paintings they use for like backgrounds and stuff, which is kind of like a really old school way of showing something in a movie. But this is one part where they show like part of the Costco, and there's like 100 red couches just like lined up in rows.
Yeah.
Eventually, Frito leads them to the tram that goes to the time machine. And while they're waiting for the tram, Rita needs to use the bathroom first. And she goes off to use the bathroom. And I think Frito and him have like an argument or something about something, right?
Yeah, it was Frito. I think Frito says something like, "Hey man, you mind if I pound her? I like sex. Sex is awesome." And then he starts like miming having sex and going and moving around and jerking around a whole lot. And
Mm-hmm.
he's starting and I think that's when Notcher is worried that he's drawing too much attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
So he's trying to get him calmed down, or they'll get noticed by the cops, and then they do get noticed by the cops.
Like he
And
gets scanned again, right?
yeah, he gets like that's like, other than the time before in the car, that's the second time where he accidentally gets scanned, where he's like flailing his wrist around when he's trying to stop Frito from moving so much. He gets accidentally scanned, and then that is what draws the cops to them. Yeah.
Yeah, so what happens is now after he gets scanned, I'm not sure is now knows, okay, the cops are coming, but Rita hasn't returned from the bathroom. And then Dax Shepard's character, Frito, wants to flee right away, so he gets on the subway. And then I guess, not sure, kind of has like a mental breakdown trying to comprehend the implications of time travel because he's like, well, if I went back in time, then this would never have happened. And then he's like, his mind is just kind of trying to think of why the paradox and why basically, like, if there's time travel, then I would have come back in time to warn myself, but I haven't warned myself yet. So he gets stuck in his head about the time travel stuff, trying to
Yeah.
compute.
So that
And
does that mean that I didn't travel into the future because I didn't come back to stop myself, or why did I not? Did something happen where she wasn't supposed to come with me, and maybe I traveled forward into the future and returned her to where she was already, so she wasn't here in the first place? And then he gets like a whole other levels of confused about that too, which I thought was interesting, partially because it seemed like a moment to me where it was more like almost more intelligent than his character in a way.
mhm. Well, it was definitely, I would consider it foreshadowing.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
because it was essentially true that if there was time travel, then what are the implications of what's going on now? But anyway, like he gets caught. Rita sees him being dragged away by the cops, and I think they like pepper spray him again when he gets in the back seat.
And they keep pepper spraying him over and over again.
So eventually, they actually drive him to the White House, and the White House just is this decrepit version of the White House. And he gets introduced to some of the cabinet members, and he's like, "What the hell? What am I doing here?" And I think that one of the cabinet members basically told him that, "Oh, the IQ test you took indicates that you're the smartest person alive at the moment.
Yeah.
So you're now going to be our what was he like the what was his position?
Minister of the Interior? Is that what it
Oh,
was?
there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the Minister of Interior. So he meets the Secretary of State, um, Tits McGee. I don't remember her name.
Yeah,
Um,
the redhead with big tits.
and like the guy who keeps saying, um, like he says, what does he say? Like, it's brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
every,
that guy who keeps saying that because he gets paid every time he says that.
and then there's like this big dumb guy, and then a kid who won the position from a contest.
Right.
So, and then he meets the president, like I believe,
Yeah, I think
like right
so.
after that. So they start talking, and they're trying to solve problems and stuff. And he tries to convince them that, hey, let's bring in this other lady, Rita. And then I think this is when he,
That and they think he wants to is that's when they think he wants to bring her in because he wants to bang her, right?
yeah, yeah, he thinks he wants to bang her. So I'm trying to think, what was the first thing that he did as an interior secretary?
Is this are you talking about like at the sort of presidential ceremony when Terry Crews is telling the public that he's basically going to fix all their problems, like he's going to fix the economy, the crops, he's going to fix like their psychological problems and stuff like that too. I think the first problem that he's working on after that is fixing the crops.
Yeah, so during this little demonstration, it's like imagine turning on C-SPAN and it's like some crazy competition reality show with a big budget. Um, like he walks out there, all the Congress people are out there, and then they get like really rowdy, and he picks up like an assault rifle and just starts shooting it in the air, like
Yeah.
all crazy.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like he enters the oh, we gotta mention too, like his profession, I believe was porn star before he became the president.
Was it?
Yeah, he was a porn star.
Oh, okay. I forgot that.
Um, Also, his name is very long, but is President
Yeah.
Dwayne
President.
Elizondo Mountain Dew Camacho or something like that.
Right, right.
So, there's all this pressure on Not Sure now, and like the first mission is to take care of the crops. So while he's out there, um, I think that's when they first get Rita, and they bring her out to the fields, and they think that when she's brought there, he asks for some alone time, and he has to signal to them that, oh, we're gonna go out and bone out in the field, but he just needs to talk to her.
Hmm.
So they go off and talk about what's going on, and what was it? The conversation they had was pretty short. It um, wasn't long at all, but I think he kind of explains what just happened, um, that he is now the Secretary of the Interior. That's why he's in the position he's in now. Because the last time she saw him, she thought that he got thrown in prison again.
Was it before that, when he was examining the crops and he saw that instead of pouring water on them, they're pouring that green stuff that what he was in the water fountain earlier, that is basically like like a sort of
Energy
Gatorade or
drink.
Powerade substitute.
Yeah, he was out in the fields and he saw that they were spraying sports drinks on the plants.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What the hell are you guys doing? You need to water these with water." And they're like water from the toilet. Like,
Yeah, because no one drinks water anymore. They only drink like that Gatorade stuff.
well, they only drink Gatorade. Well, nobody drinks water at all. Like the
Yeah,
only thing they seem to use it for is the toilet. I guess they
yeah,
don't wash their hands for anything because nobody mentioned a water coming out of a sink or anything.
yeah. That wouldn't be surprising.
So,
Oh yeah, McEldoon said this in the comments. He said, Brondo has electrolytes. Yeah, that's
yeah,
what they keep
electrolytes
mentioning
is
it.
what plants
It's
crave.
what plants crave. Yeah.
So they have I guess, a debate back at the office about why they need to actually use water instead of this sports drink, and they just keep like his colleagues just keep throwing like slogans at him from like
Yeah.
I guess the Brondo commercials.
Brondo has
Like with
electrolytes
Brondo,
though.
it's what plants crave. They need
Yeah.
electrolytes. And he asks them, "Well, what are electrolytes?" And they're like, "Oh, electrolytes are what plants crave." So it just becomes like a circular debate.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so what ends up happening, I guess he makes some type of decree that everything goes back to water, for the crops, and then we get some disruption, right? So like there's an angry mob outside the White House, and they get a call from, I guess, the CEO of Brondo, and he's like, "Whoa, I had to lay off half of my employees," and that's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was like an automatic like technological thing that happened. He said that it automatically happens with like the in the computer system or something when the market crashes that much, because the stock value crashed to zero, and I forget what percent of the market they said, but some enormous like 50 to 80% or something like that of the entire American economy relies on Brawndo, I think.
Yeah, that was freaking insane.
Yeah,
So, like a giant, well, I don't know how that's even possible, but yeah, a giant portion of, well, Brawndo employed half the United States. Like half
yeah,
the country was employed by Brawndo.
yeah.
So that caused like a great depression of sorts, and that's why there were a bunch of people, like a giant mob at the White House. So I guess not sure gets put on the shit list, and then like they have like an emergency meeting, I guess in Congress, and that's where they turn on him, right? But before they turn on him, I forgot to mention that right after like not sure was elected as, well, not appointed as the interior minister, they had like some crappy ass parade where
Oh, yeah,
the president was like in some weird motorcycle chariot thing, and he was like drinking beer or something like that. But
yeah.
anyway, he goes to Congress, and Congress basically wants to get rid of him, and things turned out so bad that they want to put him in like a Running Man type of uh, game show
And they call it
where,
rehabilitation, right?
yeah, they call it rehabilitation. There's no rehabilitation happening.
Yeah,
It's basically just like a gladiator, Thunderdome, Running Man scenario where they have these champions who fight against like whoever gets thrown in there. I forgot what was the name of the champion. Like, what was his name?
oh, I forget.
He looks like kind of like a Jesus looking like dude.
Is he played by Sean William Scott? I thought that might have been played
I
by
don't think
him.
so.
No?
No, I don't think that was Sean William Scott.
I'm gonna look it
Because he
up
was like,
on IMDb.
was it? I don't think so.
It might
He
not
didn't
have
have
been.
like that. Yeah, but anyway, he gets sentenced to be on sentenced to rehabilitation. Um, so Rita's like, well, why don't you just break out of there like you broke out of prison? And then it's like, well, I can't because they chained me to a giant boulder.
Yeah,
So they're at this, I guess it's kind of like a monster truck destruction derby type of deal where they put him in some crappy car, and he has to go up against two people at first, and they look like monster trucks with like mechanical dildo type things in front of
yeah.
them.
Oh, yeah. That guy is not Sean William Scott. I'm looking at a picture of him right now.
Yeah. So did it say his name on IMDb?
I'm gonna look it up on the cast. Wait, I'm gonna see if share my screen works, and then I'm gonna switch to that picture.
Okay. But
Hmm.
y- so he goes into this arena, but before then, like Dax and, well, Dax Shepard, Frito, and Rita need to help him out. So they want to help him out, and he basically tells them go to the crop fields. Like that's what he tells Rita and what's his name to do. Because before, like while they're watching the video stream of him at the rehabilitation, they look outside the window and there's like plants growing. So they're like, oh shit, the water worked. Maybe we can save his life by, you know, filming it or something like that.
Can you see
Yeah,
that?
that's the guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the guy.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Not Sean William Scott.
No, not Sean William Scott. Oh, mirror effects. Mirror effects. But at that point, so they see that the water's actually working. So Maya Rudolph and comes up with a plan with Dax Shepard, and they go down to the arena and they hijack a cameraman. I think they bribe him with something. I forgot how they bribe him, but
Yeah, I think so. I forget.
yeah, yeah, they like bribe him and they said, "Hey, come along with us." And I think what happens is just um, Dax Shepard and the cameraman go on by themselves, and I believe Rita stays behind. I forgot why exactly, but I don't know why you would send two idiots to do like such an important task by themselves. But anyway, they get sent off and they get to the fields, but they get distracted by one of those fast food hand job places. I think it was
Yeah,
Starbucks.
yeah.
And they go in there and I guess they get a hand job or something. They don't really say what happens, but um, I think what happens is Jesus, what happens after that? So I know there's a part when they come out and something happens to the cameraman, I think, right?
Yeah, I forget what happens to him, but there's something to do with how uh Rita's trying to get the cameraman to show the crops because she sees what Notcher has been trying to communicate to everyone, which is that the crops are growing now because they have water. They had water being poured on them, and
Mm.
the Rita is trying to get the cameraman to focus on that, but I forget why he was focused on something else. But then eventually, like he he drops the camera and it happens to focus on a budding plant on one of the crops, and that's when everyone sees it.
Yeah. Well, I know Dax, Frito Pendejo, um, kind of realizes, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be filming. So he picks up the camera and he starts strafing along the crops to see that, oh yeah, there's a bunch of crops and they're growing.
Mm-hmm.
Back at the arena though, that's so crazy. Like, okay, so you have these two cars with those big dildo things in the front, and then they're like waiting for like the main guy to come out, and his car is like way too big, and it doesn't fit through the actual door.
Right.
Um, what happens is
Oh, his name's
he's
Beef Supreme.
Beef Supreme.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Beef Supreme is trying to drive his vehicle through the wall, and he ends up like collapsing the arena.
Yeah.
Um, and so like the whole arena collapses, but they get out, right, and they start fighting on foot. And
Yeah.
he's like shooting some type of like grenade launcher or something. I'm not sure. And he's just kind of like toying with them, you know, playing with the audience. He's having fun. And then that's when they see like on all the video screens like the crops. And basically it stops right there because it's like, oh, he saved the day. They're about to kill the guy. But yeah,
Yeah. Wait, before
so
that though, before they see the crops, I think that's one point where um, Beef Supreme is still trying to kill him, and he goes up to the top of this like junk pile of the two monster trucks that he got to crash into each other earlier with his dildo car,
mhm.
and he sees like a mic dangling there, so he grabs onto it and he wants to say something, so Beef Supreme lets him say something first before everyone sees the crops, and he's trying to convince everyone with logic and reason that the crops will grow, and it's not working. So that that happens before they see the crops.
Yeah, and then I think he's just hanging on, and Beef Supreme shooting like a flamethrower at him at that point.
Yeah.
And he's like getting his feet singed. But yeah, he becomes the hero. And I guess this is where we come to see that, okay, there was this quest, the time machine quest, right? So he becomes the hero. He talks to Rita, and Rita wants to stay behind. She does not want to go back to her time. And I would understand that totally. She doesn't want to go back to being a hoe and doing like upgrades bidding. So
Yeah.
she's in a good, much better place now. I'm not sure wants to go back though. So he asks him to take him to the time machine, and then one of the guys is like, "Oh, that ride,"
Yeah.
and then it's like, and then they go to like some old theme park or something, and it's kind of like a little ride talking about like history and stuff.
Yeah.
I think one of the points in history was like Nazi dinosaurs or something like that.
Yeah, and Charlie Chaplin was Hitler.
Yeah, Charlie Chaplin was Hitler, and the Nazis were dinosaurs.
Yep.
But so what ends up is, of course, yeah, there's no time machine. So he ends up becoming the next vice president. He becomes the vice president,
Yep.
and he becomes a president. And he and Rita get married and have kids, and they have like a couple kids, and then, of course, they showed um, they showed, was it Frito when he had like a shitload of kids?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so they're like showing, oh yeah, this is the same cycle. Like smart people only have a few kids, and the dumb people have like a shitload of kids. And that's the movie. But I was thinking about the premise a little bit, and I was thinking, even if dumb people have more kids that are dumb, isn't it likely that dumb people are more likely to die earlier or younger or at higher frequency than people who are smart?
Is it?
I don't know. Is the life expectancy for smart people longer than the life expectancy of dumb people?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
Yeah, it is. I wonder.
But
Wonder
well,
if the
because
internet.
they're like so dumb, you would assume that Darwinian forces would just destroy them because they're so stupid.
Yeah, because the natural selection is the most favors the most adaptive, not actually the ones who breed the most, right?
Yeah, that's true. Like the ones who have the greatest survival instinct.
Yeah.
Like if you have a bunch of dumb people who are just dumb, I just think they're likely to die quicker. But I think at the point in society at which it gets, I don't think you'd actually have what it's possible to have a human society that stupid. It just, I don't think that it would be a self-sustaining society at all. Like we see that there's like doctors and lawyers and shit, but where do they get their technology from?
Yeah.
None of them are
You
making
can
it.
see that it malfunctions all the time, right? So it's probably made by dumb people, but you wonder if they're relying on really old technology, and maybe people haven't made any new inventions anytime recently too.
Because I think that's the case. 'Cause if you just look at their world, you don't really see anything new. Like everything's kind of beat up and old looking, even though
Yeah,
it is like futuristic. Like you take a look at the Costco, it's not the upkeep is just not there. It's just kind of like a giant crumbling building, and I don't even know how they manufacture things. I have no idea how this actual society can sustain itself. It just doesn't make sense.
yeah, that's true. When I just Googled, do smart people live longer than dumb people? Some of the articles I found are study finds that smart people live longer than not smart people. People with higher IQs are more likely to live to their 80s. Um, and then sort of unrelated stuff like 8 ways smart people act stupid, why smart people are stupid, and that this one is interesting. Are stupid people happier?
I think so.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. I guess so.
Sometimes,
I don't think that's the case necessarily,
yes.
but because I think if you're stupid, you can still worry about things
Yeah, yeah, for
and have
sure.
anxiety. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if
The
that's the
only thing, I
case.
guess, the only
Yeah, I
thing
guess.
like that you wouldn't think about if you're smart is like existential angst and the inevitable heat death of the universe, uh and I don't know, like any complex problems that you learn about, like the I don't know, the crumbling economy of so-called first world countries like America or something like that, or like get into learning about like politics or economics or like foreign policy or shit like that.
Mm. Well, I know that it angers people. It's just more stuff to worry about to inflame
Hmm.
emotions.
Yeah,
But dumb people get angry at really stupid things.
yeah, it's just different problems, right?
Yeah, like dumb people get angry too, and they get angry at ridiculous and stupid things
Yeah, for
that
sure.
don't matter. I think it's mainly like when they're saying about life expectancy and stuff like that, like a smart person maybe is more self-aware about their own survival. I don't know. Maybe that's the case.
Do you think it's due to intelligence that one of the reasons that I work out so consistently and follow a healthy diet that works for me is because I think about the long-term benefits that it will have for my health and for me living longer?
I guess. I guess so. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it has to do with intelligence because a lot of stupid people work out too. I
Yeah,
just think that
and a
you,
lot of really, really smart people are out of shape too.
yeah. Um, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. I think we would just need like a super wide, a study that just kind of covers a lot of different demographics to find
Mhm.
out. But that would be like a super controversial study. So I don't know if that's ever
Yeah.
going to happen. Like, yeah, let's test your IQ and see how long you live. Yeah,
I think
that's
there's a hell of a lot of individual variation, especially if you're measuring IQ. Like we've both learned from mixed mental arts about how, like, sort of rather inconsequential measuring IQ can actually be, right?
well, yeah, because IQ isn't like an objective standard of measuring intelligence. Like it's
Yeah,
certainly like when they measure the intelligence, it's measuring your intelligence within a specific culture and society. Like if
yeah,
you take a dumb person and put them in the Congo with some tribes, like to that their intelligence is not adequate to surviving in that environment.
mm-hmm,
But like
yeah,
some of the tribes people might have like a superior intelligence for that environment that keeps them alive. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're a farmer or something like that, even like you might not do well on an IQ test, but that doesn't matter because you're a farmer. And if a really like intelligent astrophysicist or something tried to go and be a farmer, they wouldn't do well at it if they had no experience.
Yeah, it's
And
just a different environment.
That's similar to what McEldoon just said in the comments here. The premise of the movie that makes assumptions like lower IQ people breed in higher numbers, it's not necessarily true and possibly speaks to the behaviors of industrial societies. I think that's true. That's really similar to the point that you made not long ago.
Yeah, because I think, yeah, if you just think about the progress of just maybe your country or my country, and how the size of families has shrunken amongst certain demographics. Like there are these people, like crazy fringe white right wingers get super obsessed over birth rate and things like that, when it's just a product of not needing a shitload of kids to survive. Like people would just produce as many kids because that's the labor they needed to upkeep their farm. They needed to have a bunch of fucking kids so that once they passed on the farm, they had lots of labor there to take care of things.
Hmm. It seems
But
like as societies improve, people have less children. I think I've heard a lot of like really intelligent social scientists say that.
I think that's just the case. Like the only time you see like these larger families in developed countries are usually immigrant families that produce lots of kids because they're kind of still in that same mindset, uh, especially if they're coming from like a poor or undeveloped country.
Hmm.
Um, but typically, people who are professionals, like what is the goal in the US? Usually it's like two kids, right?
Hmm.
Like you hear, oh yeah, two kids, a house, dog, that's kind of like the norm. But like immigrant families are typically much larger, and they live in multi-generational situations where
Hmm.
they're always by their families, and they always have that kind of support network of having a family. And it's kind of like they
That's like
have to have
better
it.
for raising children.
Well, yeah, that support network is definitely good for that. Like not raising children during COVID, but
Yeah.
typical situations, yes, it would be great. Um, but yeah, yeah, birth rate. Yeah, it does make sense that birth rate was like something that was desirable when looking at an industrial society that needs like labor. But yeah, things are a changing.
Yep.
All right, so did you laugh a lot at this movie?
Yeah. I didn't think it was hilarious, but I thought it was really funny. Like I have a similar assessment of it as Office Space, also of course directed by Mike Judge. I think it's a really great movie overall, and it's funny, but it also makes actually some good deeper points too, and it's definitely like I think similar to Office Space. It's probably one I'll watch like every once in a while, over and over again.
Yeah, and I think in Not Sure's acceptance speech for president, he said that he wanted to make movies about characters so that you cared about the ass that it belonged to.
Hmm.
When he was
And
commenting
he
about,
said it should be cool to read books again.
yeah, yeah. People are like, but yeah. Would you be able to watch the movie Ass?
I don't think so, man. I don't think I could get through the whole thing. I'd get bored too quickly and annoyed.
Yeah. Uh, that'd be funny if someone actually tried to produce that movie.
Yeah,
Um, but it's so stupid, man.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Oh, there's
McEldoon just
so
we
much
were
dumb
talking
stuff.
about we were talking since you were talking about birth rate, McEldoon said this in the comments. There's also a much higher infant mortality rate in pre-industrial societies. Having more children offsets infant and child mortality. That's
Yeah, and
interesting.
the U.S. has a very high infant mortality rate in comparison with other developed nations.
Oh, I didn't know
Uh,
that. Is that because of your fucked up healthcare system?
I don't know. To be honest, I do not know. I haven't read into it, but I do know that it is the case. I don't know if it has to do specifically with the healthcare system, but I don't know if it has to do with prenatal care not being adequate. I couldn't tell you. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I remember when I first saw this movie, very funny. Um, I use some of these, like some of the little phrases from this movie, like I still use in like gifts that I send people.
Yeah.
Like one of the ones I use is "Go away, Baton." Like I've
That's
used
funny.
that GIF many times on Facebook and whatnot.
That's funny.
Go away, Baton. And I usually do that to like people who are annoying.
Yeah, that would be a good reason for that.
um, but yeah, there's a lot of little funny moments. But yeah, it's worth checking out.
For sure.
I don't think we're quite the idiocracy yet, but the internet has brought out flavors of it.
Yeah. I think you're right that it's sort of it's this sort of the case with the internet in general, that it amplifies the loudest, angriest voices the most, which represent the majority of people. I think it's something like I forget what the fucking is, but it's like a really, really low percentage of people that do most of the commenting on YouTube videos and most of the tweeting all day long on Twitter. It's like a really tiny minority of people who do that. And then the media amplifies what's happening on Twitter because they focus on what's happening on Twitter so much.
Hmm. Yeah, that's full of Twitter and YouTube comments.
Yeah.
That's because people can be anonymous. Well, except for most prominent Twitter accounts are not anonymous, but yeah, it's the thing about when you're opening up a space for anyone's opinion, then you get to see more idiotic opinions. It's just before before we had the internet, people had to write letters to the editor. That's how we got to see opinions, and I think most idiots would just get weeded out through that process.
Yeah, because it's a lot of effort to write a letter, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So when you can just when any Neanderthal could get their two index fingers and start plugging away at a keyboard, that's what happens. That's why you see YouTube comments the way they are. That's why you see a lack of critical thought and just head shaking when you see some of the people's opinions about stuff.
Yep.
Don't know if they're troll. It's like it's sad. Like if it's a troll, it's like, oh, okay. But if that was like a real opinion, then it would be sad.
It's sometimes really hard to tell whether someone is trolling or serious. Like,
Yeah,
it seems
it's
like
like
it's
if
getting harder and harder to tell the difference lately.
Yeah, usually, especially when they're anonymous. When they're not anonymous, then you got to assume, okay, they're putting their name out there. So if they are trolling, they're just going to destroy their own reputation, basically.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would recommend this. I would recommend it for people to watch if they want to see something funny, and it kind of has a pretty interesting social commentary that's
Yeah.
kind of relevant to today. I would say check
And
it
like
out.
it's interesting too that in every in every movie in which people time travel to the future, even when they're dystopian societies, there isn't another story that I've seen in a movie or TV show or read about in a book in which in this futuristic dystopian society everyone is dumb. Like like everyone is at least like average intelligence in every other futuristic depiction.
Yeah, everyone is like, I guess their benchmark is like 84. That's like Cleavon's IQ,
Yeah.
and he gets his nutsack saved after a horrific accident.
Oh, right.
He tries to drive a jet ski from a lake into a swimming pool, and
Yeah, something like that.
he impaled himself on like a wrought iron fence and destroyed his reproductive system. And then the doctor like rebuilt it, and he's like, "Oh, you guys get your hands off my junk." And the doctor just kind of rolls his eyes, while the other
Yeah,
couple they're like sad because the dude died. And
right.
she's like, "Oh, I'll wait till the next guy comes around." And she's like, you could see that she's an older lady that doesn't really have look like she has much time left.
Yeah,
So, check it out. It's funny. Um, I would recommend it. Great, great job by those actors there.
for sure.
Um, you would recommend it as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd give it like 4 out of 5 stars, I would say.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I don't know. There are some really. There's a lot of fart and shit humor, but it has to be because it's like how stupid everybody is.
And it's Mike Judge.
It's Mike Judge, exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, um, two recommends by Andrew and Dusty.
for sure.
Do you want to do a brief covering of what you've read this past week?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I listened to an audiobook which I think you would find really interesting too, called I think it's called Rings, Swords and Monsters, which is basically about kind of like the history of the fantasy genre, basically, kind of how it developed and how it eventually got put into the category of not really being um, seen as serious literature, especially like academically speaking, and how
Mhm.
that stigma has has decreased over the years, and it goes into like Beowulf and stuff like that that influenced Tolkien, and it goes a little bit into Tolkien's work, like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and also C.S. Lewis and his work like Chronicles of Narnia as well. And then it goes into the work of some other authors too, and how fantasy has become more popular. I think this came out like a while ago, like before Game of Thrones became a show. I think it might have even been. Actually, I don't remember whether they mentioned the Lord of the Rings movies or not, so it might have even came out before the Lord of the Rings movies. So, but it was still talking about sort of more modern fantasy authors a little bit. Like Ursula K. Le Guin was one of them, And I don't know if you've heard of this fantasy series, but I actually coincidentally have some of the books in this series, but I haven't read them. But they're called the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant by Richard R. Donaldson. And
I've seen that series on the top fantasy series list, but I haven't been able to find that at my library.
okay, and then they also talk about Arthurian fantasy, like the Myths of Avalon, that series that I told you that I read. It's like sort of Arthurian fantasy, but all from the perspective of the women involved in the story, basically. And then there's also, they talk a little bit about The Once and Future King by T.H. White, which is an Arthurian myth, which that's one that I also have not read yet. Um, I also, oh yeah, I finished reading The Stand, of course, which you and Parker and I are planning on talking about tomorrow, which will be fun. And like I said, I love that more and more every time I read it, and I understand it better every time I read it. And we'll talk about that tomorrow, of course. But it's like, I think it's definitely one of, if not my favorite, if not even my favorite post-apocalyptic story. It's definitely up there. Like I Am Legend is one that I love too, but I think I might like this one even more. And with the very last part of the ending in particular, I love it because it like brings all the threads together. And because uh, Stephen King is so great at writing character driven stories, because that's basically kind of what he always does. The characters in this one, I think like even if it's not necessarily one of my like my absolute favorite Stephen King novel, I think it's in my top 3 at least, along with Bag of Bones and It. But even if it's not my favorite my absolute favorite Stephen King novel, I think it might be my favorite. Like it might have better character. It definitely has better characters, I would say, than any other Stephen King novel I've read. Partially because it's so long, but all of the characters are so interesting and unique in their own ways, and it's I don't know, like it's definitely up there. It might even be in like top 5 or even top 3 for like books books I have read that I think have the best characters.
When you reread it, did you do the extended edition or like the original one?
Oh, the extended. Every time I've read it, it's been the extended edition, because I'm pretty sure every time I've read it, I've listened to the audiobook from my library, and it's only available as an audiobook in my library, and they only have the extended edition audiobook that is 48 hours long.
Yeah, the long one.
Yeah.
Man,
And
yeah, it's a long
oh
book.
yeah, I started rereading the Song of Ice and Fire series. I told you I got the first 4 books um, last time I was in Edmonton. So I started rereading that series too, because apparently Winds of Winter might actually be coming out sometime soon, book 6 of theoretically 7. So I started reading Game of Thrones again, and that's another series um, like Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time and every good series that I like. I like it more every time I read it. This time I like it more than the other times I read it. I forgot. I thought it only got that way in the later books, but I forgot that even in the first book there's actually like a lot of action and little skirmishes and battles. I thought that the first one was mostly like the political scheming and stuff. I forgot about that. But yeah, that's of course
Well, doesn't the
pretty.
first book have like the stuff with Tyrion, or am I where he goes off to the Vale, or no? He
Yeah,
doesn't he fight along his father, like in that battle with his father?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then he gets caught up with the Mountain Men,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah,
they go
yeah.
to he takes Sir Bronn to to the Vale, and they have a duel there, and Sir Braun pushes that dude out the moon door.
Yep. That guy who they're having like a single combat duel, and Bronn is fighting for Tyrion, and he ends up killing him, right? And what else? I think I might be forgetting about one or two other books, but I definitely also I started reading book 6 of the Dresden Files, Blood Rights, which so far, like the last, like
Yes.
every Dresden book that I've read so far, I love it, and so far I would give it 4 stars, like I've given most of the books in the series, and it's really awesome. And I like how this one is about it's mostly like vampires and also succubi on a porn set, and he's trying to save the life of a porn producer. That's pretty that's pretty hilarious and awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
Daniel Green hated that one. I think he hates it because he's kind of a square when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, he kind of is.
He's very he's very like I understand Dresden as a character, and there are some people that hate that he's like objectifies women. But I'm thinking in my head, that's how dudes think
Yeah,
when
like
they see a hot chick.
that's what I always say whenever anyone mentions the misogyny in Dresden Files. I just think he's just a guy, man. Like that's how
That's what
guys are.
guys think. That's
Yeah.
how they think. That's how they assess beautiful women when they see them.
Like it's you're right, like it's mostly his thoughts in the novels that people get mad about. Like that's how guys think.
Yeah, but yeah, Daniel Green hated this number book 6. He was going to stop reading based on one.
Wow. It's interesting how people can have such widely varied opinions about fiction.
Well, yeah, there's another book he hated too, called Nevernight. I loved it, and I think he didn't finish it. He DNF'd it. He
Who wrote that
also
one?
DNF'd, huh?
Who wrote that one?
I forgot who, but it's assassin fantasy. It's
Okay.
basically like Hogwarts for assassins.
Oh, cool.
I loved it. It was awesome.
Why didn't he like it?
I
You
think
still
I
there?
got roboticized there. Yeah, I got cut off there a little bit.
Oh, okay. Why didn't Daniel Green like it?
Uh, I think he didn't like the writing style, but I think he probably didn't like the sex scenes either. But anyway, but I don't know. He likes Joe Abercrombie, and there's lots of sex in that. So I don't know.
That's true.
Let's see. Well, I guess what did I finish? I finished that Mary Trump book,
Oh, is that
which is I guess it's
Trump's
one of Donald
sister?
Trump's nieces.
Oh, one of his nieces. Okay.
Well, no, it's his niece. Yeah. So
Okay.
Trump is her uncle, and a lot of the book was about Trump's father and how
Hmm.
much of an asshole he was, and how his shitty parenting created monsters.
I've heard of that before. I've heard of that, but I don't really know anything about it. So maybe that would be an interesting book to read.
Yeah, and you said that book was called, what was it? The Ring, the Dragon, or what was the name of that book? I want to check that out.
Rings, Swords, and Monsters.
Ring, Swords, and Monsters. Yeah, I want to
Yeah,
see if my
it's like
library has that.
the audiobook I listened to. It was like a collection of academic lectures about fantasy, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to see if I could find this. What else did I read? I've read a couple Dresden books. I think Changes. Did I talk about that last time?
I'm not
I
sure.
don't think I did, but Changes, crazy. Probably my favorite Dresden book of the Dresden books.
Oh wow. And which number is
Um,
that?
I think that's 12.
Okay.
And then there's Ghost Story, which comes after that. And then the one I'm on is actually pretty damn crazy as well. Um, it's called Cold. What's
Cold
it
Days?
called? Cold Days. And it raises the stakes of Dresden Files tenfold past anything that's happened. It's
Oh
just
wow.
like, Jesus Christ, this is a fucking insane book.
Wow.
Um, I still like the changes much more because of the emotional ride of what happened to Harry in that book. But this new one, Cold Days, you're like, holy shit, like the implications of things are starting to stack up. Like the stakes are being raised to ridiculous levels now. Um, but yeah, I can't wait till you get further into these Dresden books because they get pretty insane in the later books.
Cool.
You're gonna really like them. What do you think of the character Michael?
I love him. I think you asked me this
I think I
maybe in the
did,
last
but yeah,
episode. But yeah, I love him. I think it's to me it's great because to me because I'm an atheist, I think religion is great material for fiction. I think
mhm.
it's really cool that his faith his faith is like the strongest version of magic powers that there is, or at least one of the strongest.
Well, what do you think about Sonya? Have you met Sonya yet?
Yeah, that was in the last book, I think, that I that in the series. Is he the knight who's like an atheist, I think?
Yes, he's an atheist knight of the cross.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
He's
interesting.
also he's also black and he's also Russian.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the weirdest combination of things ever.
Black Russian atheist knight of the cross. Yeah. It's interesting. He does it basically because he has the attitude of, well, someone still has to be noble and have this role and protect people, and
Mhm.
I want to protect people. I don't need to be motivated by God to do it, basically.
Yeah. Um, and then there's Shiro, who he was not a long-lasting character.
Yeah, he dies at the end of the last book, book 5.
Yeah, so book 5 is pretty crazy too. You have these fallen angels, right? And then they end up it ends up that Harry thwarts a terrorist plot, but in that Shiro basically gave up his life. He's basically Shiro is a representation of Jesus in a way
Yeah, yeah,
because he gave his life up and he was tortured in order to save everybody.
yep.
Um, but yeah, I
And we
love this
find out,
series.
it was partially because he was dying of cancer, right?
Oh yeah, so he knew he was dying anyway, so he was going to use his last like the last of his life to save someone else's life or to save everyone's life basically. Like he bought everyone time. So, but yeah, I was like, man, are you listening to these or are you reading these?
Well, I've listened to some of them and I've read other ones. I think I listened to I listened to one. I read two. Um, I think I read three as well. Yeah, yeah. I listened to book one. I read two and three. Um, I I listened yeah, I listened to book 4, I read book 5, and I'm listening to book 6, and I'm probably gonna have to read the rest of them, because in my library they only have the audiobooks up to book 6, and after that up to 13 or whatever it is, the rest of them are only available in audiobooks in my library.
Okay. Because my library has
No,
all
no,
the
no, no.
audiobooks.
Other way around. The rest of them are only available in ebooks in my library.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my library has both. So I've only been listening to these, and I would have to say Marsters does a very good job.
Yeah, for sure.
Fuego!
Yeah. And he always says that perfectly too. He says it like aggressively and like it sounds so badass the way he says it.
Yeah, he does a great job at reading the action scenes. Like he truly is like a voice actor. Like he does Bob in a British accent. I love Bob. He's one of my favorite characters. He's kind of like what is he? Just kind of like a sleazy, perverted spirit.
Yep.
Oh, I love Bob, and he's British. Like he has a
Yeah.
British accent.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But yeah, the characters are funny. I highly recommend. Like the reason I like Dresden is because there's like great. He throws in great pop culture references. A lot of them are like Star Wars like references, but there's a lot of good and funny like. There's good humor in these books. Like he has jokes written and like it, like I would say Harry's personality is he likes to wisecrack a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
he's
for
always
sure.
like joking around, even
He
during like really tense moments
he
where
kind of
he's
reminds me of Han Solo a lot. He's like a Han Solo wizard.
yeah, like he likes to wisecrack. He has like no matter who he goes up against, like he's always wisecracking, even when the odds are like not in his favor at all.
Hmm.
So there's always like that humor element, and it's funny because later on there are some characters that emulate Harry in that respect. Um, and I hope that when you read Changes, you're not going to have the audiobook. Oh, it's so funny. It's funny because he's doing all the accents.
Oh,
So
okay.
some of the accents with these characters, plus there's like modern pop culture references thrown in with these characters with accents. It just makes it like extra funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one benefit of the audiobooks for sure. I think
Yeah.
like having read some of them, like doing it in both formats helps both of them, I would say. Like because I listened to the first audiobook before I read the second ebook, like I had all
Hmm.
those the way the characters talk and their accents in my head,
Hmm.
and I could like come up with similar ones for other characters. And also to me, um, it's only a slight preference, but I slightly prefer reading action sequences to listening to them.
Hmm.
Um, and that's one where like well I guess it doesn't really have anything to do with accents, but I
Fuego.
yeah, that part is cool, actually. Yeah, for sure. But then having read the action sequences too, it kind of makes me appreciate listening to them more because I'm hearing them described in like at least almost as good of a way as they are if you physically read the books
Hmm.
or read them as ebooks.
Yeah. I forgot what happened at the book 5. Did he obtain like one of those coins?
Yeah, yeah, he does. And I think is that what he like kind of buries in the basement in his house? Or
Yeah, that's one of those coins.
yeah.
Yeah. But
And at the end of book
didn't something
5 is,
happen with the coin? Like Michael's son was about to grab it or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So that's why he grabbed it. Yeah,
So he touched the demon coin.
yeah, exactly. And I
Mm.
bet there will be consequences for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see what happens.
And
It's
then at the end of book
interesting.
5 too, that's when we find out that Marconi's son has cancer.
Or I thought it was his daughter.
Is it his daughter? Yeah, it might be his daughter.
He visits like a young girl
Oh, okay. It's
that
probably his daughter then.
we assume that it's his daughter, but they don't say what the familial relationship is.
Okay.
We do know that he visits a young child in the hospital who's dying or has some type of disease, but they don't make it very clear that what the familial or what type of relationship that they have. It could be his
Oh,
daughter, it could be
okay.
his niece. We're not really sure
I
what
didn't
the
remember
relationship
that. I
is.
for some reason I incorrectly remembered that they clearly identified it as his son. I don't know why.
Yeah, so we're shown that Marcone has like some type of motivation for the thing he does. Because I find Marcone as a character, he's kind of like, how would I explain it? He seems like a neutral. Like if you were going to give him a D&D alignment, probably like chaotic neutral maybe, or
That's a good
neutral.
description.
Yeah, because he's not good guy,
No.
but it seems like his dealings are always to benefit himself, but sometimes he fights on behalf of others, like the sick child that he visits.
Yeah.
And, so he has some heart. It shows that he has a heart somewhat.
Yeah.
But yeah, Marcone, he's the guy that pops up throughout all the books. He's always popping up. Marcone. But yeah, I love the audiobooks. I think Jim Marsters does an excellent job. The funny thing is like one of the audiobooks is not done by Jim Marsters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was the last book, the ghost story book.
Oh, okay.
But I thought it was actually pretty close to Jim.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it wasn't bad. That's what I was going to be afraid of. It's like, oh no, it's not Jim. So I hope it's not bad, and it's actually decent. But I still prefer Jim Marsters as the reader.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's it. Just Dresden. That book. I think I'm also going through um, Renegade History of the United States. Very interesting book. I started Malazan again. So I'm reading very slowly, getting through Malazan and slowly getting through Wise Men's Fear, which is one of the King Killer Chronicles books. I also have some good news that I have a way to permanently keep anything that I borrow from the library.
Holy shit, awesome.
So every single audiobook I have it forever, basically.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
The same thing goes with for my ebooks. Everything I get I have forever.
Wow. How did you manage that? That's awesome.
Okay, so my library uses a program called it's called Overdrive,
Oh, I know about that.
and it's like a type of it's like Libby, which is another one of those library apps. So I was using the app on my phone, and I was getting like inundated with too many checkouts and stuff that I wasn't actually finishing, and then the stuff I would have to recheck it out and wait like 12 weeks to get it back again. So I went and did some research. I was like, how can I permanently keep this stuff that I've been checking out? So the way it is, instead of doing everything on my phone, I just do it on my computer. So when you do it to your computer, it just saves the MP3 files to your computer. And if you move those files to a different folder, the application doesn't delete those files because,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so all I do is copy them and paste them in some different folder, and basically they're mine forever.
Wow.
Um, for the ebooks, it's a little different. So what I have to do for those is I have a dedicated reader that I use just for ebooks. It's a Kindle Paperwhite. One of the things I did with this reader is that I disabled the internet connection, so it's always in airplane mode. And the way that the library checks, or at least the way that the check is made to see if the books are due, are through the internet. So if the internet is not on my Kindle, then it can't do the check.
Oh,
So
that's
then you
smart.
ask yourself, well, how do I check out books if it's not connected to the internet? So what I do is when the book is checked out from Amazon, because it's their Kindle checkouts, I go to my book list and I download the book to my computer, and then I put the book on my e-reader, and then it's permanently available. As long as I never connect my e-reader to the internet. So instead of getting my book from the internet, I have to transfer the book from my computer to my e-reader.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So that means that as long as I keep my e-reader offline, I permanently keep any checked out ebooks.
Oh, that's cool.
The only thing is I can't get my books downloaded through the internet. I have to physically connect my e-reader to a computer and then transfer my books from the computer to the e-reader.
Okay.
But yeah, this has relieved so much stress, not having to worry about my books going back. Like I was like, damn it, I have like 5 books and they are all going to expire within the next 5 days. There's no way I can get through all 5 of these before the due dates. So that's now I just got a bunch of audiobooks on my computer that I can just sit and go through at my leisure instead of like stressing out about getting these things completed before they go back.
Right.
And the other big thing is too, as soon as I get an audiobook, I can return it and check out something else.
Right. That makes
So it clears up my list as well. It keeps it free so I can keep checking out things and loading up my own audiobook archive, I guess.
right.
So what I ended up doing because of that is because I I do actually prefer to e-read things than to read them on the book in my own books. So what I've been doing is I've been going through my own personal library and trying to find the ebook versions from the library so I could just read the ebook instead of the physical book.
Oh, okay. Why do you prefer the ebooks to the physical books?
The ebook's smaller. It's easier to read at night because it's backlit. Um, like I'm less likely to damage my books. Like for instance, the Renegade History of the United States, I damaged the cover because my daughter dropped the book because I
Oh,
had it like on the couch. So it's just I don't know. I guess the e-reader for me is just easier to hold up at night. It doesn't weigh much. It's pretty nice, compact, and I think it's just easier to read at night, basically.
okay.
And
Yeah, I
then it,
mean, I like all the different formats of reading for different reasons, like the convenience factors that you mentioned for ebooks are why I like those. And I prefer and I like audiobooks for different reasons too. Like
mhm.
like to me they all have their pros and cons. Like I kind of feel like Sometimes I kind of prefer audiobooks for nonfiction, but it depends on the book. Like if it's a more of a narrative nonfiction book, I kind of prefer that. Um, hmm, well, I don't know. It depends. I guess I kind of prefer a more narrative nonfiction book as an audiobook, and a less narrative one as a physical book or an ebook, I guess, because it's easier to like skip around that way. But I also I like physical books, and I kind of prefer them to ebooks just for aesthetic reasons, really. Like I just like the feel of a book in my hands. I'm like I have this like emotional attachment to physical books. I like the feeling of holding the physical books and the pages, and like the smell of a new book when you get it and all that kind of stuff. I'm just in love with books.
Well, I like the physical possession of books. Like, I don't mind reading paperbacks. I think I just have a harder time reading hardbacks. And pretty much I've relegated hardbacks to just something I collect rather than something I read, if that
Oh,
makes
okay.
sense. Because I have like a bunch of hardback fantasy book, like gigantic. You know how big freaking hardback fantasy books are? Like
Yeah.
they're gigantic and huge, and they're like unwieldy. Um, they don't make good like an hour before bed reads. You know, this giant 3 pound book that you're holding up in bed is just it's just cumbersome. So if
When
I
I
do read
read
in
in
bed, I
when I
go
read
ahead.
when I'm in bed, I lie on my stomach, and I have like just like just enough of my head hanging off of my bed to see the book, and I have the book below me on the floor usually, and then I like hold it that
On the
way.
floor. I wouldn't even be able to see it if it's on the floor. It's like,
My bed is really close to the floor.
yeah, mine is not. I wouldn't be able to see it. I'd be, my eyes would strain. Yeah, when I read it, I'm just on my back and I have the book propped up in front of me, like with one or two hands. If it's if it's a paperback, one hand's fine. If it's a hardback, especially like a really weighty one, I have to use two hands. But since I read at night, if I'm using it a paperback or hardback, I have a book light like attached to the book because I don't like because I read late, so we're talking like 1:30 ish, 1 to I usually read from 1 a.m. to like 2 to 2:30 a.m. And I don't like to have like a bunch of lights on in order for me to read the book, so I just use a book light that I attach to the book while I'm reading it.
It makes sense.
Um, but yeah, I like I guess I like the Kindle because it's just a little bit more convenient. If I'm like reading at a desk at work, I then that's when I prefer like an actual book. Like when I'm here at work right now, I usually spend the last 2 to 3 hours reading, and I at that point I prefer like an actual book over the e-reader.
Cool.
But yeah, that's kind of my reading habits. I cycle between the three. I would say largely most of my reading is done through audiobook simply because it allows me to multitask um, much easier. Like I spend a lot of time here at the weekends, and I can get through a whole Dresden book in a weekend if I'm listening to it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
This is like a 17-hour audiobook or whatnot.
Sometimes shorter.
Yeah, some of them are like 12. I think the first one was pretty short, like 12 hours.
Something like that.
Yeah. Fuego. They
Yeah.
fight a frog demon in the first book.
Yeah, that was cool.
He's always fighting these weird creatures.
Yeah.
It's
I like how the book 6 starts off, um with him saving puppies from shit-flinging ape demons.
So, yeah, yeah, it's like it opens up pretty weird. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
But he's always encountering different baddies, and that's something I like. That he's always, and a lot of the things that he encounters are like rooted in human fairy tales and fantasy.
yeah, yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I don't think outside of like a couple of the things that I'm reading about now, none of the enemies or adversaries he fights are outside the realm of human fantasy, horror, or anything else. Like they all come from fairy tales and ancient legends and things like that. Like
Yeah,
you don't have a bunch of made up like monsters. They're all have some type of root in like folklore, fairy tales, legends, or something of that nature. But
sorry,
yeah,
what'd you say there? I forgot I had
that
my.
everything. No, I said that everything that Dresden fights is rooted in like folklore, fairy tales, legends. Um, like there's not like made up monsters just for the Dresden Files. They're
For
always
sure.
some type of fairy tale or monster that comes from a story or a legend or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. I like how they do like go into different types of fantasy creatures with each book. And it was sort of more like focused on one particular type of creatures in the earlier ones, and then as they progress, they do like several different types of creatures per book, which is really cool.
Mm. But yeah, Dresden. Um, can't wait till you get to at least finish this book 6. And you're listening to it, right? It's fun. It's
Yeah,
hilarious. This
yeah,
is this the setting is funny. It's like it's a porn set.
yeah, yeah.
And
That's
he
funny.
introduces himself as what was it as a stuntman, and
Yeah,
some other
yeah,
dude gets like super pissed off about it
yeah, yeah. That's funny.
when he's just a assistant to like a producer. But yeah, it's hilarious. I love that one. I think you'll find it pretty funny. There's like a big like reveal at the end of the book, which is
Oh
one
yeah,
of the
I bet.
reasons why I really liked that book.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, there
Yeah.
often is as the I don't know, like after I don't know after which book, maybe even like after book 3 or so, there seems to be like some big thing that happens at the end of each book.
Yeah, at the end of the 6, so it's pretty significant. For I'm saying it's pretty significant for character development,
Okay.
and you'll see what I mean when you get to the end of book 6.
I wonder if it's something about his father based on some of the stuff that I've heard from some of the bad guys he's been fighting.
Well, you'll find out. I'm not going to
Yeah.
spoil anything
Yeah,
for
no, don't spoil it.
you.
Yeah. So, how
um,
far are you in Renegade History of the United States now?
I'm basically halfway. I think I'm like at page 200.
Okay.
So I think I got maybe 150 pages left.
I'll wait until you think you'll be able to finish it like within the next week or so, and then that's when I'll read it to prepare for our chat about it.
Hmm. Yeah, because you read fast
Yeah.
and I read slow.
Especially since I'm rereading it, I probably could finish it in a few days, I would
Even
say.
even faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my first read. I think I'm in the chat. I just finished a chapter about Italians. It's like, oh yeah, the Jews were black, the Irish were black,
Yep.
the Italians were black.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy that they were all considered black at
Yep.
different points in American history.
Yep. And you and I talked about I think it was that book. Yeah, I think it was that book White Trash in which they're even talking about um something interesting that I had no idea about before, which was that during slavery, poor white people were seen as white slave owners as worse than slaves.
Yeah, 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 because they were basically unemployable.
Yeah,
And we're talking about people living off in the mountains eating raccoons and stuff like that.
yeah,
And really extremely poor white people we're talking
yeah,
about here.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I guess we could start wrapping up.
so wait, which you said you're reading one of the Malazan books, and was it one of the Night Angel ones that you're reading too?
Oh no, I finished all the Night Angel books.
Which was the other series that you said you're reading one of the
So
books
by
in?
Brent Weeks.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well the ones I'm reading now are Malazan, just the first book I'm trying to get through. And then the other book is the King Killer Chronicles,
King
which is the
Killer
second.
Chronicles. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's the second book. That's Patrick Rothfuss.
Right, right. Okay.
I think you would love his books. They are great to read, like read, not to listen to. I haven't listened to any of his books,
Oh, okay.
but because my library doesn't have the audio books, but they're great reads. Like they're the type of whenever I read his books, they're the type that they are hard to put down. So to speak, like you finish one chapter and you just want to get to more of the story to see what happens next. He has a very good way of structuring his writing so that by the time you finish a chapter, you're very interested to see what happens in the next chapter.
Yeah, I
So
love books like that.
you'll like it. I know you'll get to it eventually, but it's good reading.
I'll definitely check it out
All
at some
right.
point. Yep.
And then you said it was called Rings, Swords, and Monsters. That's the one that you heard. Okay,
Yep.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
All right,
For
man.
real.
I guess we could start to wrap things up. What tomorrow we're gonna do the stand, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be fun. Yeah.
All right.
So
So yeah, that'll be pretty good.
yeah. So since this is on my channel, you just you can do any last words or plugs or anything there, and then I'll do my standard ending stuff.
Sure, sure. So I guess we missed the mark. I think we were supposed to be doing a Lord of Chaos, but well, I guess we could try for next week.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, it's my fault that didn't happen this week.
All right, so we'll try to do Lord of Chaos. Originally, we were supposed to do that today, but we had some scheduling conflicts and some technical difficulties, obviously, because we're not doing this on the regular MMA channel. So we'll try to do Lord of Chaos next week, and we would be doing it up to chapter 29. So this would be
Sounds good.
up to chapter 29. This would be 15 chapters. And we'll try to do that next week. That'll be our next endeavor. And in a couple weeks, I'm guessing we'll be doing Renegade History. But yeah, if you want to keep up to date with what's going on, just check out our Facebook page. It's usually at least always someone talking about something going on in the world and on that Facebook page. But yeah, thanks for checking us out.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, man. Check out Mixed Mental Arts. And yeah, thanks for everyone for watching this. Thanks for commenting, McEldoon. That was great. And thanks to anyone else who adds anything in the comments and press the like button on this video and subscribes to the channel. And especially to those of you who give me money on Patreon, which I greatly appreciate. And like I always say, I love you all. keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and also groove is in the heart. And watch Idiocracy. It's an awesome movie. And check out some of those books we were talking about, like Dresden Files, which we've been mentioning incessantly lately. And yeah, anything else to say before we end it there, Dusty?
Well, that's it. Check out Dresden Files. Check out Wheel of Time. Check out the channel.
Yeah. And check out our chat on the stand tomorrow. All right. Adios until next time, everyone.
All right. See ya.